The Pixelmon team has released version 9.112, which adds a bunch of new Pokemon, including Paradox Pokemon and Legendary Pokemon. There are new palettes and a new costume for Pikachu. So yeah, let's just dive right into it. First off, a long overdue change that has been made is the removal of witch hats from the Pokestops. It was just a remnant of a Halloween update that was forgotten about, so that has finally been changed. The Revenant ability, an ability exclusive to the zombie Lugia that spawns as part of a questline in the Drowned World, has had the Fiery Dance attack replaced with Torch Song in its pool of fire-type moves. NPCs in the Tower of Waters and the Tower of Darkness were able to be challenged repeatedly, and since the Pokemon on these NPCs teams were really high level, players were abusing them to farm XP, so now they can only be challenged once per player. Moving riding offsets are now utilized more aggressively, which I believe means that your player will be less likely to sit inside or hover above a Pokemon's model when you ride your Pokemon. And the item sprite for any TM that was for a steel type move shared the same sprite as TMs for normal type moves, so there is now a new sprite for the steel TMs, such as a dark streak down the center, and similarly TMs for fairy type moves are no longer identical to the TMs for psychic type moves, since both previously just used the sprite the psychic type TMs use. There are also changes to Gardevoir's and Mewtwo Mega Y's model, but I believe those are just changes to make them easier for artists to make skins for. Alright, on to the 16 new Pokemon added in this update. Let's start with Tarantula and Spidops. Tarantula and Spidops will both spawn in all forests during the daytime. They'll spawn down on the ground or up on the tops of trees. Upon being defeated, Tarantula will always drop 1 or 2 pieces of string and has a 50% chance to drop a Spider Eye. Spidops will always drop 2 to 4 pieces of string, has a 50% chance to drop 1 or 2 Spider Eyes, and additionally has a 10% chance to drop a fermented Spider Eye. Mastiff and Mabostiff are now in Pixelmon. Mastiff and Mabostiff can be found in plains during the night. Mastiff will always drop 1 or 2 bones and has a 50% chance to drop 1 raw rabbit. Mabostiff will always drop 1 to 3 bones, has a 50% chance to drop 1 or 2 raw rabbits, and additionally has a 10% chance to drop a dark gem. Finnison and Palafin, including Palafin's hero form, are new to this update too. You can find them both in Minecraft's ocean and deep ocean biome, as well as the lukewarm and deep lukewarm ocean biome, and also the warm and deep warm ocean biomes. They'll spawn during the day, and Finnison can potentially spawn as a group of Finnison, while Palafin will always spawn with a group of Finnison around it. Finnison drops 1 or 2 cod and has a 50% chance to drop a Nautilus shell, while Palafin will drop 2 to 4 cod, has a 50% chance to drop 1 or 2 Nautilus shells, and a 10% chance to drop 1 water gem. Farigiraf, the evolution of Girafarig, is now modeled and will spawn in Pixelmon. You can find it in savannas at night, and whenever it spawns, you are guaranteed to find a group of Girafarig spawning with it. So, if you spot a Girafarig, be sure to look out for Farigiraf too. Upon being defeated, Farigiraf will always drop 2 to 4 acacia leaves, has a 50% chance to drop 2 to 3 pieces of leather, has a 30% chance to drop an acacia sapling, and lastly, a 10% chance to drop a normal gem. Now, on to the Paradox Pokemon. And remember, for all the Paradox Pokemon, you'll be able to find them in the Small End Islands biome. Brute Bonnet, the ancient relative of Amoonguss, is finally here. Brute Bonnet will always drop 2 to 4 red mushrooms, has 50% chance of dropping 1 to 2 dark gems, and has a 10% chance of dropping 1 miracle seed. Iron Bundle, the future relative of Delibird, is finally in Pixelmon, and might I say the animations on it look fantastic. Iron Bundle is guaranteed to drop 2 to 4 blue ice, has a 50% chance of dropping 1 or 2 water gems, and has a 10% chance to drop a never melt ice. Iron Jugulis, the future relative of Hydreigon, is here. Iron Jugulis will always drop 2 to 4 blaze powder, has a 50% chance to drop 1 or 2 poison gems, and has a 10% chance to drop 1 charcoal. Probably a favorite among many trainers, and definitely one of my favorite of this update, is Roaring Moon. the ancient relative of Salamence. I mean, look at how menacing but also colorful it is. Like all the other Paradox Pokemon, you'll still find it in the small end islands, and if you defeat it, you'll be rewarded with 2 to 4 Blackstone. There's also a 50% chance it drops 1 or 2 Dark Gems, and it has a 10% chance to drop a Dragon Fang. And the last of the Paradox Pokemon of this update, Iron Valiant, the future relative of Gardevoir and Gallade. Defeating it will earn you 2 to 4 Sugar, a 50% chance to get 1 or 2 Fighting Gems, and then a 10% chance to pick up a Fairy Wand. If you catch it, be sure to also appreciate its special animation where it brings its blade out and splits it into 2. Alright, we're finally going to cover the legendary Pokemon of this update, starting with the Treasures of Ruin, Wo-Chien, and Ting-Lu. Wo-Chien has been added and you'll be able to find it in swamps at night. If you defeat it, instead of capturing it, you'll be rewarded with 2 to 4 Black Terracotta. There's also a 50% chance it will drop 1 to 2 Relic Silver, as well as a 30% chance it drops a Grass Gem and a 10% chance it drops a Relic Vase. Ting-Lu is also new to this update. You'll find it in taiga biomes at night, and upon defeating it, you'll be rewarded with some drops very similar to Wo-Chien. It'll always drop 2 to 4 Black Terracotta and a 50% chance to drop 1 to 2 Relic Silver, and a 10% chance to drop a Relic Vase, but differs slightly in that it has a 30% chance to drop a Ground Gem. And last but most certainly not least, the box legendaries of the Scarlet and Violet games, Koraidon and Miraidon. Koraidon looks amazing, both in his standing upright form and in his bike form. You can find Koraidon in the small and islands biome during the daytime, because yes, the end does have an invisible night and day cycle. It will always spawn at level 70. If you defeat it instead of capturing it, you'll be rewarded with 2 to 4 loaves of bread, a 50% chance for 1 or 2 Fighting Gems, a 30% chance to receive a Dragon Gem, and a 10% chance to nab a Dragon Fang. Miraidon spawn and item drops are very similar, spawning in the same biome as Koraidon at level 70, except that Miraidon will spawn during the end's nighttime. Miraidon will drop all the same items as Koraidon, except that instead of Fighting Gems, Miraidon has a 50% chance to drop 1 or 2 Electric Gems. You'll definitely want to level up your Pokemon so that you can catch these guys, so you can have a unique Pokemon to ride around on. The one catch is that it's not possible to fly on them, however the potential for that does exist in the 120.2 versions of Pixelmon. Besides all these new Pokemon, one of Cosplay Pikachu's outfits, the Pikachu Libre costume, was added. The rest of the outfits for Cosplay Pikachu are already in Pixelmon, so it appears this one was just missing. There are also some new palettes for Sprigatito, based on the 4 seasons of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. You won't be able to change any Sprigatito you currently have with these palettes, but you'll be able to capture new Sprigatito in flowery biomes for the spring palette, forest biomes for the summer palette, taiga biomes for the autumn palette, and freezing forest biomes for the winter palette. I'll warn you though that Pixelmon's patch notes state that these palettes have reduced rarity, so they probably won't be easier to find than a normal Sprigatito. And that covers all the new Pokemon, forms, and palettes of this update. So onto the bug fixes that I think are important enough for you to know about. The quest to use and craft a healer has been fixed, which should be as simple as using the healer in a Pokemon Center and crafting a healer like this. There were fixes to commands such as CompC and PokeC. Pixelmon fixed players being able to give Pokemon the zombie palette during the daytime, and they also fixed it so that if you have a Battle Bond Greninja, you can now make it have the zombie palette. So the way to do that is to wait for a night with a full moon, send out your Pokemon so that it stands in a brightly lit spot and can see the sky, and then use a carved pumpkin on your Pokemon, and its palette should permanently change. The Mount Lanakila biome, named after the location in the Alola region of the Pokemon Sun and Moon games, is fixed and can be found once again. The unknown blocks that you can find in the grotto structures Pixelmon adds had recipes for crafting them that were missing, which are missing no longer. Among the fixes for battles, there was a battle error happening when an Arceus holding the Legend Plate Dynamaxed and then used Judgment, which has now been fixed. Additionally, there were bug fixes to address players not receiving Minecraft XP from smelting items and curry ingredients, to address some issues with Pokegifts, and a few other things mostly that impact servers or players in creative mode. And that is all I have for you for the Pixelmon 9.1.12 update. Thanks for watching, and good luck out there catching all those new Pokemon. See ya!